Have you ever noticed before you say something, you're already thinking about how the other person might react? You rehearse, you soften your words, you explain carefully, you adjust your tone, not because you're trying to manipulate anyone, but because somewhere inside your body is trying to prevent tension, conflict, disappointment, or emotional distance. And then sometimes you become so focused on managing everyone else's reactions that you stop noticing how much pressure you're really carrying internally. Now, today, I want to talk about why some people feel responsible for carefully managing other people emotionally. Because many people don't realize this pattern often began as protection. So if you've ever found yourself carefully choosing words to avoid upsetting people, over explaining to prevent misunderstanding, monitoring people's moods during conversations, feeling anxious before difficult conversations, or trying to keep peace at all costs, and then finally, or feeling emotionally responsible for how others react. This conversation might explain more than you realize. I'd like to welcome everyone. I'm Janine Naus, your grief and trauma relief specialist, and this is another Healing Step session where we'll gently increase awareness around emotional patterns many people learned long before they understood why. And so today's topic is, why do I feel like I have to carefully manage other people's reactions? Now, I want to approach this gently because many people develop this pattern in environments where emotional unpredictability felt unsafe. And one of the things trauma can quietly create is emotional hyper-awareness around other people, especially around reactions and moods, maybe disappointment, anger, withdrawal, criticism, even tension. Now, for many people, their nervous system learned if I can manage the emotional environment, maybe I can stay safer emotionally. And so the body adapts. It learns to anticipate reactions, soften conversations, prevent conflict, over explain, keep people comfortable, stay emotionally alert. And then over time, this can become automatic. Now, it can become so automatic that many people don't even realize how much of that emotional energy they spend trying to prevent negative reactions around them. And then sometimes they become experts at emotional management while quietly feeling exhausted inside. Now, many people who carefully manage others' reactions grew up in environments where reactions carried emotional consequences. Maybe anger felt unpredictable. Maybe criticism felt painful. Maybe emotional withdrawal felt unsafe. Maybe conflict created anxiety in the home. Maybe you learned to keep peace to avoid discomfort. So your nervous system adapted. It became highly skilled at reading emotional cues early. So you learned, how do I say this safely? And how do I avoid upsetting them? And how do I prevent tension? How do I keep things emotionally stable? And while this may have helped you emotionally survive earlier experiences, many people continue carrying this pattern after those environments are long gone. So even healthy conversations can still create internal anxiety. And you may notice overthinking texts before sending them, replaying conversations afterward, worrying how people interpreted you, trying to phrase things perfectly, feeling tension before setting boundaries, struggling to express disappointment honestly. Now, this all happens not because you're weak, but because your nervous system learned reactions matter, And one thing many people don't realize is how exhausting emotional management becomes internally. Now, because part of your nervous system is constantly calculating what mood are they in, how will this land, what will happen, what kind of reaction may happen, how do I keep this from becoming uncomfortable? And then after a while, you may begin feeling emotionally responsible for everyone else's emotional state. Now, that's a heavy burden to carry, especially because many reactions around you are not actually yours to control. See, people have stress, people have moods, people have personal struggles, people misunderstand things sometimes. People have emotional reactions that belong to them. But when your nervous system learned to prevent emotional discomfort, other people's reactions can begin feeling like your responsibility. And then over time, this can create emotional exhaustion, anxiety around communication, people pleasing, fear of conflict, difficulty expressing needs, difficulty relaxing around others, because emotionally, it can feel like you're always on duty, monitoring, adjusting, preventing. And many people carrying this pattern rarely feel fully relaxed in those relationships. Healing often begins with recognizing there is a difference between being thoughtful and feeling responsible for everyone else's emotional experience. So you can care about people without carrying full responsibility for the reactions. See, that distinction matters. And I'm going to go ahead and repeat that for you because I think that's an important point to share here. And it is that you can care about people without carrying full responsibility for the reactions. Because many people automatically move into how do I keep everyone emotionally okay before asking, what do I actually need right now? One gentle practice that can help is pausing before automatically adjusting yourself. You want to notice, are you communicating honestly, or are you trying to prevent someone else's discomfort? You want to notice, are you speaking carefully from kindness, or is it from fear? Noticing this noticing this without criticizing yourself creates awareness. Awareness is key. And awareness creates choice. And then over time, many people begin learning they do not have to carry responsibility for managing every emotional reaction around them. That does not mean becoming harsh. It does not mean becoming careless. It means slowly allowing yourself to exist emotionally without constantly trying to control the emotional environment around you. So today, I simply want you to notice something gently. How much energy do you spend trying to prevent other people's reactions? How often do you adjust yourself emotionally before someone has even responded? How often does your nervous system move into emotional management without you even realizing it? See, awareness of this pattern matters because many people spent years believing they were simply too sensitive or overthinking when really their nervous system learned to stay highly alert to emotional reactions around them. That's a big difference. And understanding that can begin changing the relationship you have with yourself. I want to thank you for spending this time with me today. And if this conversation resonated with you, feel free to share in the comments what part stood out to you the most. And if you'd like additional support and conversations like this, you're always welcome inside my Bridge to Healing community on Facebook.